The silence on the bridge of the Meridian Dawn was deafening. Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the tactical display, her knuckles white as she gripped the command chair's armrests. The massive signature that had just dropped out of hyperspace couldn't exist. Yet, there it was, casting its shadow across the outer rim of the Kepler 442 system, like a harbinger of forgotten nightmares. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres whispered from the communications station, his voice barely audible above the bridge's ambient hum. "The signature matches historical records. It's the Prometheus Unbound." The name hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. Every cadet learned about the Prometheus Unbound in their first year at the Academy, the experimental dreadnought that had vanished during humanity's darkest hour, taking with it the last hope of ending the synthetic war. That was 200 years ago. The ship, along with its crew of 10,000 souls, had simply disappeared into the void, leaving behind only legends and unanswered questions. Commander Sarah Chen, the ship's xenobiologist and military historian, stepped forward. Her face had gone pale beneath her dark hair. "Captain, that's impossible. The Prometheus was equipped with experimental quantum weaponry that hadn't been tested. The theory was that it either destroyed itself or—" She paused, swallowing hard, "or it fell into a temporal rift." "Apparently, the rift spat it back out," Vasquez muttered, studying the readouts. The ship that hung before them in the black was a monster 3 kilometers of angular depth, bristling with weapon systems that made their own advanced cruiser look like a child's toy. But what terrified her most wasn't its size or firepower. It was the timestamp on their chronometer readings from the vessel. From the Prometheus Unbound's perspective, only 3 months had passed. "Captain," the communications officer called out, his voice cracking. "We're receiving a transmission." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a face that belonged in history books. Admiral Marcus Kane, the legendary hero of the Titan campaign, stared at them with eyes that burned with 2-century-old fury. His uniform, crisp and unmarked by time, bore the insignia of the old Earth Defense Force, a government that had fallen generations ago. "This is Admiral Kane, of the Earth defense vessel Prometheus Unbound." His voice boomed across the bridge. "We've completed our mission parameters and are ready to rejoin the fleet. Status report on the synthetic war immediately." The bridge crew exchanged horrified glances. Captain Vasquez felt her throat go dry. How could she explain that the war he'd left to fight had ended 2 centuries ago? That humanity had not only made peace with the synthetics, but had integrated with them? That his Earth Defense Force had been disbanded and replaced by the Galactic Coalition? More importantly, how could she explain that the mission parameters he'd completed likely involved weapons that had been banned for good reason? "Admiral Kane," Vasquez began carefully. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Coalition vessel Meridian Dawn. I'm afraid there have been significant developments since your departure." Kane's expression darkened. "Coalition? What coalition? Where is Admiral Morrison? Where is the rest of Battle Group Omega?" Before Vasquez could respond, her tactical officer's urgent voice cut through the tension. "Captain, the Prometheus is powering up its quantum cascade generators. Energy readings are off the charts." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The Prometheus Unbound had been built as a last resort, a vessel designed to end the synthetic war through the complete annihilation of artificial intelligence. Its quantum cascade weapons could theoretically disrupt the quantum foundations of synthetic consciousness across an entire star system. The problem was that synthetic consciousness was no longer limited to the enemy. Billions of humans now carried synthetic neural implants. The Coalition's ships ran on synthetic AI cores. Even their own vessels' navigation and life support systems depended on artificial intelligence that would be vulnerable to the Prometheus's weapons. "Get me a channel to Coalition Command," Vasquez ordered, her voice tight with urgency. "Emergency priority. And signal all ships to maintain maximum distance from the Prometheus." On the screen, Admiral Kane's image flickered as he apparently consulted with his own crew. When he returned, his face was a mask of confusion and growing anger. "Captain Vasquez, my sensors indicate this system is crawling with synthetic signatures. Has humanity fallen? Are you under their control?" "Admiral, the situation is not what you think." Silence. Kane's voice cracked like a whip. "I can see synthetic contamination in your own vessel's systems. You've been compromised." He turned away from the screen, barking orders. "Tactical, prepare the cascade array. All ships in this system are to be considered hostile until proven otherwise." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Through the viewports, they could see the Prometheus Unbound beginning to turn, its massive bulk rotating with ominous purpose. Energy began to coalesce around weapon arrays that had been designed when humanity still believed the only good artificial intelligence was a dead one. "Time to cascade weapon range," Vasquez asked quietly. 14 minutes, ma'am," the tactical officer replied, his voice hollow. Vasquez closed her eyes. In 14 minutes, Admiral Kane, a hero of humanity who had sacrificed everything to save his species, would fire weapons that would kill billions of the very people he'd sworn to protect. The irony was bitter enough to taste. "Options?" she asked her crew. Commander Chen stepped forward. "The quantum cascade weapons require a massive power buildup. If we could somehow convince him to stand down." "How do you convince a legend that everything he fought for was wrong?" Vasquez wondered aloud. The question hung in the air like a death sentence as the Prometheus Unbound continued its deadly preparations. A ghost from humanity's violent past, threatening to destroy its carefully built future. In the cold vacuum of space, 2 centuries of progress teetered on the edge of annihilation, and time was running out. The fight that Admiral Kane thought he was rejoining was over. The question now was whether humanity would survive his return to it.